Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Wilds talk. With title update 2 underway, we're even closer to the Arch-tempered Uth Duna release than you might realise. She's coming a little earlier than originally announced, and you know, based on the recent trend of difficulty, maybe even this Arch-tempered version could be harder than we expect. So with that, are you actually ready for it? Do you know what to look out for? If not, here's a quick overview to give you the things to know and consider. You'll need to be at least Hunter rank 50 plus to face her. She's coming as an event quest and a free challenge quest, the latter being the one with the special conditions and the rewards you'd imagine. She is releasing on July 23rd though, which is 1 week earlier than originally planned. But now, she's not only coming a week earlier, but she's sticking around permanently. This change came thanks to feedback about Arch-tempered hunts being limited events in general and how people really dislike that. But on this note, they're also considering letting event quests stick around based on that too. We'll have to see what they decide. I should mention though that AT Ray and his permanent addition to the game will also arrive on the 23rd. Let's take a look at the little bit of gameplay that they've actually shown us. We see 3 main clips. One has a roll into a back roll slam and then a full roll back to her feet. This is going to have incredibly wide range to it, obviously going to be generating a lot of waves, so one to look out for sure. There's this one where she does a little rear back into an arm swipe, into a second arm swipe. I think the attack itself doesn't look that bad, but it's the whole body moving forward that will hit you and catch you. The last one is where she does this big stand up and then a roll into this multi-jump charge forward on the belly. Basically bouncing forward multiple times, chasing down her target with big slams and massive range to it. Each bounce looks like it was also generating waves that will hit you after, and she did 3 bounces back to back there, so something to look out for. In terms of my hopes for this fight and the changes to the moveset, I pretty much just want to see a bit more complicated combos or anything of that nature. I know she's a massive monster and is slow lumbering in nature. I find her moveset quite samey, like a lot of her attacks feel similar to one another. So I'd love to see any agility or unexpected speed, maybe just longer combos, to hit in the way that I'm looking for. But we'll have to see. Right, let's talk about resistances and special details. We can fully expect wound resistance to return for AT Uth Duna. Against AT Ray, we did have that familiar set locations for the scars that would then open tempered wounds and normal wound buildup. The problem here was the added resistance, a concept that was added with the May update, in particular for the 8-star versions of the tempered apexes and gore. One of the biggest points of feedback for Wilds feeling too easy was how wounds could be opened quite easily, resulting in crazy DPS and control of a monster through the focus strike animations. Well, these harder challenges now feature greater wound resistance. This essentially means that you need to target those wounds and hit them a lot more, a lot longer before they open. They still result in incredible burst, monster control, potential knockdowns, and so on. They're still really good. With AT Ray, I found that certain scar spots weren't worth the effort to open since they weren't in good control or DPS locations. So there wasn't any point wasting time on, say, the tail for me with certain weapons, not if I wanted to beat the timer. My advice here then is to quickly learn where all the scar locations are and consider which ones are going to be worth the time to open based on the control it might give you and if it's actually in a good spot to reliably hit. For different tips and help, I've got a few. Here's one great one that I want to give you for interruptions. Naturally, we're going to be facing her in area 15 at times. Here, there is by the waterfall, a huge boulder drop you can pull down that also brings a big wave and pushes you and the monster to the edge. So you're going to be ready for that. It does fantastic damage, will be a free knockdown, and you can attach the grapple to it and pull after a delay, letting you time it pretty well. But then after that, we have the upper area of 14, which to be fair is unlikely to be a common spot for Uth Duna, but if you take the time to bring her here with a quick lure pod from one area over, or maybe get lucky with her location, you'll have 2 ruins to drop on her. They need to be exploded, so barrel bombs, maybe even a gunlance explosion, that kind of thing, ultimately results in 2 boulder drops in one location here for big damage and multiple knockdowns, which will help you control the fight and deal great output. And since there's going to be no waves to generate in this lacking water area, I think it's going to be worth it. Finally, if she does choose to swim through the area 15 down to say 13 and beyond, just like we saw with Legaicrus, you can drop a boulder into that water too. It only works against monsters that are mid-swimming down that river route, but it is again big damage and another knockdown window. Now, another interesting concept here is going to be flash pods. Something that happens with flyers in particular, and we saw with Arch-tempered Ray, was building up resistance to flash pods. That would then prevent them being knocked out of the sky by pods at that point, and so you lose that great DPS window. Unfortunately for us, obviously Uth Duna's on the ground the whole time, so we won't be able to knock her down from the air, but be aware of the clever trick I'm seeing speedrunners using, flash podding enemies on the ground. What happens is the monster just begins to blindly swing for a while, often in one general direction. Ranged speedrunners then, especially bowgunners, use that for easy DPS windows where the monster's just attacking the air and they just free fire into it. So that's going to be an incredible DPS window if you can use ranged weapons, but still worth trying with melee. Next, let's talk about wave pressure, as it were. A funny detail with some AT monsters back in World was some added wind pressure to various attacks to interrupt you or slow you down. In this case, we really don't have to worry about that with Uth Duna, but what we will have to deal with is the high waters, the waves being generated that will buffet you, interrupt you, move and even knock you back. And if you guard against it, it does work, but it does deplete your stamina pretty aggressively, doubling up as a way for Uth Duna to attack you and have the waves clean out your stamina, leaving you vulnerable. You might be wondering then about this skill for AT Uth Duna, aquatic mobility in specific. Obviously it's going to help you deal with the waves by negating their effects completely, or even just reduce the amount that you're slowed at level 1. The problem here is that the skill is pretty demanding. If we look at, say, the Uth Duna Alpha set, you can get 1 level on the chest piece and you get 1 level on the waist. So this is going to be pretty taxing when it comes to trading proper meta gear for proper DPS for something like this. However, there is a positive here in that you're going to get pretty decent water resistance with this water monster. So it could be something to consider. With just this set that I'm standing here, I actually have a couple of Legiacrus pieces for water resistance. This could be something that you might want to consider, or at very least, take a look at the sets you might choose to run against her and check what water resistance it actually has. The problem with some meta sets is they're not thinking about resistances at all, so you could go in here fighting her for the first time and have like -10, -15 water res or something, and ultimately make the fight harder for yourself. So check what your sets actually have in terms of water res, maybe make some small changes if you need to. Let's now quickly discuss the timer and special reward pendants. The free challenge quest version was the one with the challenge, and for that with AT Ray, it meant you had to slay it within a time limit, which was 13 minutes to get the best rewards. So no captures, adding a chunk of time to the hunt. I thought it was a reasonable timer, and I think that will probably happen again. But something interesting about those timers at the time was, especially with AT Ray, kind of caused a divide. Not a major one, but I did see a lot of posts about how this timer was really hard, really tough, whereas others were like, this was really forgiving and tame. If they made the timer 10 minutes or something, they still would have thought that's pretty forgiving. I think the whole thing is cool in how it encourages a form of speedrunning that everyone can get involved with, and for some special cool rewards. But based on how I saw a lot of different opinions on it, I do think they're going to stick to the similar time this time around. What about the Gamma set then? Obviously visually it's quite a lot nicer, vibrant. It's already one of the cooler looking sets and colourful in general, but here the brighter colours are popping and there's this kind of blue gemstone vibe, reminding me of Arch-Tempered Ray Dow's set. But I don't see that massively reflected in Uth Duna. I'd have to really take a look at her once we see the Arch-Tempered version. But what kind of skills are we going to see on this? With the original Radow set, we knew that it would probably have something to do with latent power because there's a lot of potential for this skill, but it wasn't quite good enough at the time. Since they added the Gamma set, we could get more access to latent power and other benefits. So it actually became relevant. With Uth Duna's set though, you've got peak performance, tool specialist, aquatic and oil silt mobility, earplugs and quick sheath. None of that is particularly relevant, and that's the alpha set with the added skills. In the beta set, where you're more likely to actually have pieces of these, it's even lower. So peak performance requires you to have full health for it to actually work. It is a very underused skill for most players. Tool specialist can be useful in that it obviously recharges, say, mantles faster, but it's far from a meta and relevant skill. I'm not sure even a gamma set of this is going to be that good. We're just hoping they do something unexpected by adding something cool with a set bonus or just completely different skills on the set. They need to do something pretty extreme. For set bonuses, it does have Lord's Favor. 3 pieces of this gives you the attack power when using effects like melody effects. So good for hunting horn players. And then we have Uth Duna's Cover 2 and 4 piece. Increased defense temporarily when using specialized tool, so your mantle. Or greatly increased defense. So very defensive. Not looking good for meta sets. What can you do to prepare for AT Uth Duna right now? Well, of course, you want to fully upgrade your armor, ideally the set you plan to use against her. This just gives you increased defense, meaning you're taking less damage. And if the gear you're wearing isn't fully upgraded, you're going to feel it. So I would recommend you farm that out right now. Farming monsters and turning their parts into spheres as a basic option via the oilwell basin tribe, it's an option. But if you do want to wait, you could just wait until the launch, where we're also going to get the Flame Fate Summer Festival, which means lots of new and returning event quests. Some in particular are going to be great for armor sphere drop rates, so it's a great time to farm them too. When it comes to the set that you're going to run, as I've been saying, consider committing more to defensive stuff instead of max DPS. Maybe you'll lose some effective raw or element, but in exchange, you'll actually be able to survive more hits and heal less, and that will help you learn the fight. It could be something as simple as slotting in a few divine blessings, which are only 1-slot decorations. Maybe you could change one individual piece that has a lot of 1-slots to fit that in. Maybe it has some water resistance on it too. But at very least, Divine Blessing at level 3 will half the damage you're taking when it activates, which will be a lot. Something I've mentioned many times, so very quickly, a buffing and gathering set. Using this, you can gather the stuff that you actually use to buff up. And then the buffing set means that you're able to eat the buffs faster and often for free. And with Item Prolonger, it means they last longer. So before a hunt that I'm really serious about, I will just do that. Swapping into my buffing set, popping a Mega Demon Drug, quickly drinking it, and it lasts 45 minutes instead of 30. And then sometimes I'll even do the Might Seed and of course the Demon Powder. And maybe on top of that we'll go Armor Skin and other defensive bonuses in this context. And then just like that, I swap back to the set that I plan to use against the real hunt and go. While I'm standing in a hub like this, the timers do not go down at all, as you can see. So it takes half a second and there's a lot of rewards and benefits to doing that. Lastly, the best thing you can do right now probably is go fight some regular and tempered Uth Duna. You just get familiar with the moveset, maybe you've not fought her in a while, and then you become more comfortable with the fight so you're ready when the AT version drops. You'll be able to tell what's actually different and have a plan for, say, the waves and other moves that she has. But yeah, that'll do for now. That's my overview of everything AT Uth Duna before its launch. I hope that gives you some good ideas and maybe something to work on now before it drops. And like I said, if you haven't fought her in ages, it's a good idea to get a couple hunts in now so you're able to adapt. If you guys have any other advice you might want to add then, let us know in the comments. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.